Okay, so hi everybody. This is Al Ray, and this is the USGS Hydrography Advisory Call. Hang on, I'm getting some background noise. I'm going to mute everyone. So we'll go ahead and get started. Today we have two topics, and the first that we'll talk about is we have a couple folks from ESRI here who are going to talk about some new capabilities in ArcGIS Pro, called the Trace Network. And so we have Remy Myers, who is going to give the first presentation. The second presentation, which will be about half an hour from now, is Kevin McNinch from USGS, and he'll be talking about the NHDPlus high resolution web services that we are rolling out. So let's go ahead. Remy, go ahead and take it away. You might have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, just real quick here. This is Stefan Sennheiser. Just wanted to do a real quick introduction. I want to thank everybody for giving us the opportunity here to present the Trace Network today. Remy is the product manager here for Trace Network. So he's going to run through a quick demonstration of what the Trace Network is. And really, from a higher level, this presents an opportunity for those geometric network users within our desktop world to move into the Arc Pro world. So it really is a transitional tool as we start to migrate to that next generation of ArcGIS. So with that, I will kick it over to Remy, and we want to make sure we leave a little bit of time at the end for some questions and answers, just in case any pop up. And we're definitely available afterwards if any follow-up questions occur. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Stephen. So it's really exciting for me. The Trace Network is certainly one of many packages that are rapidly evolving, along with many information management systems. And as you know, let me introduce myself a moment. I'm the product manager for the Trace Network and the Utility Network. And I've had a fairly long relationship with USGS going back to my failed college days as a geology major, through working with USGS in a career with the U.S. military, and working with numerous utilities over the last 20 years. And what's exciting for me is seeing this translation, or transition, if you will, from a single user or siloed environment of information management, information collection, and information distribution to this enterprise architecture. And having the Trace Network capable in the ArcGIS Pro environment is the first step toward really expanding those capabilities and integrating not only the trace capabilities, but the whole ArcGIS Hydro capabilities, into this new enterprise architecture. So one, we really appreciate the experience over the last 6 months beta testing with USGS for the pre-release of the Trace Network. It has gone live to the public as of today, I believe, is the release date for ArcGIS 2.6. So the Trace Network is available to the general public as a single user platform on file geodatabase. As I mentioned, it was beta tested and primarily or initially configured for hydrologic models, but it's also applicable to a whole range of trace networks. We're anticipating, in addition to hydrologic studies, that rail corporations might be interested in it, social network models, and other non-utility disciplines. But certainly, most of the features and functions were designed and configured with that hydrologic stream centerline approach in mind. And we built it to give users such as yourself a path forward from the traditional geometric network model that you've used for so many years to take advantage of the new functionality and capability in ArcGIS Pro. And, you know, one of the things that's exciting for me is that the tools and the capabilities alongside the geometric network are substantially increased as well. So it really gives you a much bigger platform, not only to view your networks, to edit your networks, but to analyze your networks. And then as we release this product to the public, we provided capabilities or tools to enable networks to migrate directly from a geometric network into a trace network to give you full editing capabilities, such as rubber banding connected features. So for example, if you've got a station that is part of the network and it's monitoring a stream location, if that stream location needs to be edited, as a user would move one of the nodes or vertices of the stream, that metering station would move and remain connected to the stream with one simple edit. Additionally, you've got the ability to set flow direction based upon the digitized directional lines. That's absolutely feedback that we received from you, and it was designed and configured based upon the properties of some of the most common hydrologic model sets. In addition to that flow direction, we've also given you trace capabilities based upon those flow directions, whether you're looking at upstream or downstream, or you want to do more advanced analytics using weights or other configurable metrics in your stream properties. We've also given you the ability to create network diagrams from these stream features, from a selected trace or selected features. And as of right now, it's available on File Geodatabase, which means that a single user can rapidly stand up this product and use it without any additional overhead. Now, moving forward, we're looking at adding more capabilities into the first quarter 2021 release of ArcGIS Pro. That'll be named 2.7. It'll also be ArcGIS Enterprise 10.9. And one of the first capabilities that we're looking at including in the network is the ability to have multi-user editing support through feature service deployments. So that means that you can now leverage your server capability to have much wider teams of editors working off the same networks. You can expand capabilities through services architecture to provide deeper and greater analytics and provide your product as a view to a much larger audience through web instances or mobile platforms. We also want to be able to give you the ability to create connectivity between non-coincident points and contain features inside of other features. So these are feature functions that are in our existing utility network that we just want to make available for you. So for example, you may have your station, and let's say that you want to have some sort of communication device that's located at or near the station, but not at the same location. You could offset the two features, and if you run a trace to include the station, it'll also pick up that communication device that supports that station. By containment, we're also looking at giving you the ability to perhaps create survey station facilities. And you could put either metering devices or communication devices inside these facilities to give you a higher resolution of your models at all scales of your network. We're also working, we talked to development yesterday, and we were excited to hear that they're working on including trace results so that they can be used for greater depth of Python analytics after a trace is completed, and to give you more software development kit tools for the trace network so that you can expand or enhance functionality as needed. So let's go ahead and take a look at the trace network and see some of these things in action. So I have a small hydrologic region, and in this region I have a starting point. So really quickly from that starting point, I can execute a trace and determine the center lines of all the streams that are downstream from that trace. So what's really interesting about this type of capability is I could quickly see my path from my starting point to the reservoir or to the body of water that is downstream of it, and be able to identify all the other elements of the stream that are included. If I were to trace from the same starting point upstream, I could not only quickly see the upstream elements, but we could take those elements and explore them in the context of a network diagram. So here we have the stream selection, and if I were to just populate it in a diagram, those features will be returned in a white space drawing that's very geographically similar. Now, I may want to take that, those geographic features and build it out into some sort of tree-like diagram. And from that tree-like diagram, I can establish, the direction I want my tree to flow. In this case, I'm going to build it out from left to right, or I can include a number of other properties. I can expand or reduce the lines based upon parameters that I would set in this diagram. But it just gives me the capability of taking that stream feature and representing those elements, both the junctions of the stream, any stations I may have, or branches of it, and see it in a clear white space diagram. Now, let's talk just for a moment about how we can build a new network. So I showed you the capabilities of an existing network. This is another portion of the hydrologic system, but it's not in a trace network. So what I'd like to do is, using the tools that are available, I'd like to go ahead and transform these lines and points into a new trace network. So let me go ahead and bring in my catalog. And I will add the geodatabase folder, and in that folder, I established the name of my new network. and I will populate the stations and the stream center lines, and even give it, some form of connected policy. So, are these simple line features, or are they complex edges that may have more CAD-like capabilities, such as multi-patch lines or things like that. But I'll just go ahead and load these as simple points and line features, and we'll create the trace network. And as soon as that network is built, we will go ahead and enable that network capability. And as soon as that happens, we have a fully functional trace network. So one of the features that I was very excited about as a former user and consumer of the geometric network, it was a challenge for me to take new CAD designs or new networks like this and change the directional flow. So as this network becomes enabled, we'll go ahead and pull it into a map, and we'll see the directional flow of these network systems. There we go. So I'll go ahead and just add this network to my current map, and it'll bring in all the network features. So I've actually got some challenges in this network. I've got some dirty areas or some problems that have occurred. Looking at these dirty areas, what has actually happened is I've got areas of my network that have the potential of overlapping. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and validate that portion of my network. And let's see. So it's telling me we still have some overlaps. Let's see if we can get those corrected real quick. Or what I'd like to do is see if we can identify one that we can fix. So what an overlap feature means is that during the cadastral drawing or during the drawing, that one or many parts of the line self-intersects. And as a general rule of the trace network, we try to prevent that from happening. So let's see. Let's see, we don't have a self-intersect yet. Could be here. Let's see what we've got here. Yeah. So let's say that I just take these vertices right here, and we pull them off. So this is an example of data challenges that a user could face as they're building or loading features from a CAD repository. Now, some of the things that we're working on with the ArcGIS Enterprise team is the ability to rapidly detect and isolate these features. So we're still good here. I don't want to take too much more time, but I do want to just run through one case study of this. Let's see. I don't know. Let me go ahead. I don't want to, I know we're limited on time. Let me just go ahead and move ahead on the data set. So the next thing I want to demonstrate was how we can change flow direction. So in this case, our linear assets are flowing upstream instead of downstream. We can quickly select these features, and using some of the tools in the network, we can rapidly change those network features or the network directional features. So I'll go ahead and redraw, and now my networks are now flowing downstream. So I'll go ahead and stop for a moment for questions. If anybody has any questions at this time. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
It looks like Gerald's got a question. I thought I saw him throw his hand up.
Sure. My question is, in tracing the network, is it possible to get linear distance between 2 points on the network from a trace, or does it only get the whole features?
No, absolutely. So let me go back to the original trace demo. One of the features that you would include in the trace would be a network attribute that would be the distance of the line segment. So the trace could sum that network length. Now it looks like this is in decimal degrees, so you would want to reconfigure the data source so it's measuring in feet or in meters. But you can aggregate the sum of the trace length using the length tool or the M value of the features.
It looks like we have another question from Mike Tinker. In the case of, say, a canal, can the flow line be bidirectional?
So that's a really good point. There are areas where you can have indeterminate flow direction. So I think the best way I could show that is to just go ahead and run the display flow direction here. So yeah, if there are regions where you've got flow, in multiple directions, you could have an indeterminate or a loop in the network. So yeah, that's absolutely an appropriate case.
Looks like Amanda has a question as well. Amanda Lowe.
I do not have a question. I don't know why my hand is raised. Sorry about that.
It's just pure excitement, right?
Yep, that must be it.
Any other questions?
Curtis Price has a question about Hatcher symbology support.
Can you read it to me? I'm sorry.
It's just, is Hatcher symbology supported?
Oh, absolutely.
Putting
Absolutely.
mark lines on,
Absolutely.
putting marks on lines by river mile.
Yeah, so that's an interesting use case. You can even not only have hatch symbol displays, but you can integrate the riverline miles with system annotation, and show those hatches as distances downstream or distances from station.
And thanks, Curtis, for the question. And John Becker has a question. Can we have Remy's email address in case it needs to do follow-up? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'll post both mine as well as Remy's email in the chat window here, so it'll be available.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so this is Al. I just wanted to kind of confirm, you said this is what you just pretty much all in 2.6, which is rolling out today?
Yes, sir.
And then you did show a few additional functions that were going to come in 2.7.
Yes, in first quarter of 2021.
Great. All right. Well, thanks so much, Remy and Stefan, for then showing us what's happening with the Trace Network. This has been high on our list for quite some time. Ever since Pro first came out, we were like, okay, we need networks. So this is great to see.
Yeah, I think we're all quite excited to kind of push some of this functionality forward. So thanks for all your participation in kind of helping lead that charge forward.
All right, great. Okay, well, next up we have Kevin McNinch, who is going to talk about some web services that we are rolling out for the NHDPlus high-res. Yeah, Kevin, yeah, we're seeing your, yeah, I can hear you.
Right. Let me get this in presentation mode. All right. So yeah, as Al said, we're going to talk
Can you
about.
Switch?
Oh.
Can you switch your display screen?
I have it on the wrong one. Nope. There we go. Is that better?
Yes.
Good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so we do want to introduce the NHDPlus high resolution map service. We are announcing it today. It's actually been available for a little bit, kind of hidden, but we are rolling this out today and it is available. And I'm going to go over some details about how you access it and how the best practices for using it. So I'll go through some details as we go forward. There's a little bit of background. We do have several hydrography themed map services available by the National Map. Here's a URL at the bottom here that shows all the National Map services beyond just the hydrography services. It's a useful one to have to be able to get to a bunch of different map services that we have. And they're all pretty useful. And all the hydrography ones are in there, and I'll go through those really quickly individually. These are the 4 hydrography theme map services that we have. We have a USGS Hydro Cache, and that's a tiled map service, so it draws pretty fast, and it's good to really quickly explore the data. We have an NHD service and a WBD service. Those have been around for a while. Those are dynamic map services. They draw a little bit slower because we're creating the images on the fly, but you can zoom in a lot further than you can on the cache map service. So those are pretty useful for exploring the data. But now we have an NHDPlus high-res one that we want to talk about today. And that's also a dynamic map service, and it does have some limitations, but we have it rolled out there with the actual data. So let's kind of look at more details of that as we go forward. So here's a little more details. We do have a URL. I have this up 3 or 4 times during these slides. So if you want to copy that down or go to that, the URL I put up earlier, we do encourage you to go and look at this service. We do have it as a REST endpoint and a WMS endpoint as well. As I mentioned, it is a dynamic map service. We have some refresh stuff going on. The goal is to have this service as the most up-to-date version of the NHDPlus high-res. As we still have the NHDPlus high-res in what we're calling beta, there are going to be some non 100% up-to-date, as we transition from beta to a non-beta product. So right now, the last update was in March. We actually have an update ready to go. We were hoping to get it ready for today, but it'll probably be later this week. It'll be updated to July 2020 data. And as you can see here, we do have some scale dependencies on it down at the bottom. So that's some of the challenges that I'll talk about a little bit later of how to use this service. Is some of the scale dependencies make it a little bit challenging to view, but we have some other ideas about how you can use it with some of our other services. So I'll show that in just a little bit. So really, what is this service useful for? It is a map service, so it's not a feature service, so you can't actually get to the underlying data besides to do some really simple identifies and those kind of things. But we really see this as an easy way to go in and visualize this data as a national seamless extent, so you can kind of see all the data together as you pan and scroll. You can get to the data without downloading, because the downloads for NHDPlus high-res can be a lot, especially if you want to look at a lot of different areas. And it is a really good way to go in and just quickly look at some VAAs, value-added attributes, that the NHDPlus high-res is, that's what the data behind the NHDPlus high-res is those value-added attributes. So it's a really quick way to go in and see those and kind of explore those. And if you use this in conjunction with some of our other services, there's some easy ways to help exploring the data and finding what you want to see. So the best place to go in and find more details about the service is the service details page. If you go to the URL right there, it'll take you here. You can get to the layers that are there, and you can see the attributes with the layers, and you can get some descriptions and some more details about the service itself, some of the fundamentals of the service. I would encourage you, if you want to know what is in here, I would encourage you to go here to the details, because based on the next slide, there are some differences in the stage product, the NHDPlus high-res stage product, and this map service. And the biggest difference is we've simplified the data model to make it more easily consumable as a service. And so we have a new data model that's a subset and a part of the BPU distribution data model that we have for the stage product. We are working on a poster. We don't have it quite ready yet. So the best way to go in and see exactly what's in that data schema, as I mentioned, is to go and explore in this service details page. I am going to highlight some of the biggest differences in the data models from the stage product that you would download and the service that you would use as a map service. And the stuff on the right of this is actually all that's included in this map service. So we have these dozen or so feature classes, and there are no tables are included, no raster data is included, and if it's not listed on the right here of this slide, it's not included. So we do have some differences. So how do we account for the VAAs, value-added attributes, that I mentioned earlier? So we've basically created this new feature class on the right. I'm going to go to the next slide. I can come back here if we need to, but we have a new feature class in here called Network NHD Flowline. So this includes a selection of the VAAs that have been joined to this new feature class of the Flowline features that participate in the NHDPlus high-res network. So if they're on the flow network of the NHDPlus high-res, they're included here, and we have the value-added attributes included as attributes on that feature class. As a corollary to that, there's a non-network NHD Flowline that includes in NHD Flowline features that were not part of the NHDPlus high-res network. And this kind of shows a summary on the right of the slide, kind of the attributes that are included. I'm not going to go through all of them. A majority of the attributes are included, but it is not 100% of the attributes. As we go forward, if we would like feedback, if this attribute's not included that you would find useful in this map service, please let us know, and we will consider those. We tried to take a good shot at what would be useful to most people, and that's kind of where we started with this map service for now. So if you go, I'm going to go back to this previous slide again. There's two other feature classes here that are circled in this kind of mustard color. So we have two feature classes that we're going to add to this, NHDPlus boundary unit and NHDPlus gauge. These are not in there yet. They will be in the next update, which will probably be before probably the end of the summer, the first of the fall, sometime around there. We don't have this data quite populated yet, so it wouldn't be super useful for some of it anyway. But we are going to be adding these in the future. So this would be a way to get to the NHDPlus boundary units, which would be like the vector processing units and raster processing units, and get some data behind those things. And then we are working to get the NHDPlus gauge, which would be the gauges that are used in the EROM calculations. Those are going to be updates coming soon. So how much time do I have? So I'm going to show just real quick how to use it. Well, I guess maybe before I do that, are there any questions about the service itself before I kind of show what it looks like?
Kevin, Curtis Price asks in the chat, are the raster data in the plan at all for services? In particular, he says the flow direction and flow accumulation, we could look at a catchment if you're looking at issues in catchments or something, trying to figure out what went on.
Yeah, so we currently do not have plans to do the rasters, but we have identified that as something we need to discuss going forward, is how we can account for those data in this product, and if we do a national NHDPlus high-res product, kind of the same idea. So, yeah,
other questions? Not hearing or seeing any other questions. Go ahead, Kevin.
All right. So I was just going to show real quick, kind of using the service. So I have in ArcGIS Pro here, I've just added connections to the ArcGIS servers that we have. So we have the one that this service is on, is hydro.nationalmap.gov. It was the URL that I put up earlier. And we have the WBD and NHD and NHDPlus high-res service. So if we add that to the map here, I'm going to turn this base map off and just display that layer. So we do have this with all the data layers in NHDPlus high-res that we have, and it is not drawing for some reason. There we go. So you can see that we have a lot of data. You can go through and you can turn the layers on and off. That probably wasn't the best one to turn on and off, and my connection seems to be really slow right now. Huh. Well, that's no good. I can go back to the slides. I'm going to go back to the slides. I kind of have the same thing. So the idea is you can add this map service in, and then we can turn layers on and off. I don't do it, but then I show an example here of identifying a feature. So if we click on a feature, I'm not sure, Fairchild Creek I had clicked on, so that would be this one right here in the middle. You can get to a lot of you can get to all the attributes. So this would be a really good way to go in and explore the VAAs that are on the data. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have scale dependencies on this layer. On this map service, so they are pretty tight right now, and full disclosure, they're kind of frustrating to work with sometimes. So a good way to use this service is if we add in like the USGS Hydro Cache map service I mentioned earlier, which is a tiled map service that draws pretty quick. We can draw this data layer, which isn't maybe not quite up to date, but it's close enough that you can use it to explore the data and find the area you're looking for, or any other of the USGS services, or any other service out there that you want to use to kind of explore the data, where you can find the data and then zoom into the correct appropriate level and be able to see the NHDPlus high-res map service. So they kind of showed that there in those slides, is you're using the Hydro Cache service to kind of find where you want to go, and then you can zoom in and then turn on this NHDPlus high-res layer, and you can turn on and off any of the layers you don't want to see. That's kind of it in a nutshell. My demo didn't quite work there. So I guess we can ask more questions, or if anybody else has any other thoughts about tips or anything for using it, or access points, or do you want to see the URL again? Oops.
Kevin, it might be good if we post the URL in the chat.
Yeah.
One of us will do that here
Okay.
pretty soon. I would also mention that ArcGIS Online is a nice low impact, low weight, lightweight interface for things. You can open up the service in ArcGIS Online quite easily, and use all the different base maps in there. So if you either don't have ArcGIS Pro access to you right now, or actually just want to see something really quick, that may be a good way to go too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and we may be working on. I've got a low priority, or hasn't been a high priority until now. Little project to try to put together an ArcGIS Online web map that would use these services and sort of give you a good starting point. When we get that in a little bit better shape, we can let you all know about that and put it in the newsletter and so on. Any questions for Kevin? Not hearing much. Anyone have questions, just overall, just comments to share with us? No, not hearing anything. So let's go ahead and call it a day then. Thank you everybody for joining us. We'll give you 15 minutes